Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel SHG Hyperdrive. ಸೊ ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ನಮ್ಮ ಚಾನಲ್ಗೆ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಮತ್ತು ಬೆಲ್ ಐಕಾನ್ನ ಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮತ್ತು ಮುಂದೆ ಬರುವಂತಹ ವೀಡಿಯೋಸ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ನೋಟಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಬರೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಟುಡೇಸ್ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಈಸ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ 2 ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್. So in this chapter we will discuss about the male reproductive system, the female reproductive system, gametogenesis, menstrual cycle, fertilization and implantation, pregnancy and embryonic development, and parturition and lactation. So as you are aware, humans are sexually reproducing and viviparous. The productive events in humans include formation of gametes, gametogenesis, that is sperms in males and ovum in females. So transfer of sperms into the female genital tract, insemination, and fusion of male and female gametes is nothing but fertilization, leading to formation of zygote. So this is followed by formation and development of blastocyst and its attachment to the uterine wall, that is implantation. So embryonic development, gestation and delivery of the baby is called parturition. So parturition, you have learned that these reproductive events occur after puberty. So there are remarkable differences between the reproductive events in the male and in the female. For example, sperm formation continues even in old men, but formation of ovum ceases in women around the age of 50 years. So let us examine the male and female reproductive systems in human. 2.1 The male reproductive system. The male reproductive system is located in the pelvis region, figure 2.1a. It includes a pair of testes along with accessory ducts, glands and the external genitalia. The testes are situated outside the abdominal cavity within a pouch called scrotum. The scrotum helps in maintaining the low temperature of testes 2 to 2.5 degrees Celsius lower than the normal internal body temperature. So necessary for spermatogenesis. In adult, each testis is oval in shape with a length of about 4 to 5 cm and a width of about 2 to 3 cm. The testis is covered by a dense covering. Each testis has about 250 compartments called testicular lobules. So figure 2.1b represents testicular lobules. So each lobule contains 1 to 3 highly coiled seminiferous tubules in which sperms are produced. Each seminiferous tubule is lined on its inside by two types of cells called male germ cells, that is spermatogonia, and fertilized cells, figure 2.2. The male germ cells undergo meiotic divisions, finally leading to sperm formation, while fertilized cells provide nutrition to the germ cells. The region outside the seminiferous tubule called interstitial spaces containing small blood vessels and interstitial cells or Leydig cells. Leydig cells synthesize and secretes testicular hormones called androgens. Other immunologically competent cells are also present. The male sex accessory ducts include rete testis, vasa efferentia, epididymis and vas deferens. The seminiferous tubules of the testis open into the vasa efferens through rete testis. The vasa efferens leaves the testis and open into epididymis, located along the posterior surface of each testis. The epididymis leads to vas deferens that ascends to the abdomen and loops over the urinary bladder. It receives a duct from seminal vesicle and opens into urethra as the ejaculatory duct, figure 2.1a. These ducts stores and transports the sperms from the testis to the outside through urethra. The urethra originates from the urinary bladder and extends through the penis to its external opening called urethral meatus. The penis is the male external genitalia. It is made up of special tissues that helps in erection of the penis to facilitate insemination. The enlarged end of penis called the galls penis is covered by a loose fold of skin called foreskin. The male accessory glands include paired seminal vesicles, a prostate, and paired bulbourethral glands. Secretions of these glands constitute the seminal plasma, which is rich in fructose, calcium, and certain enzymes. The secretions of bulbourethral gland has also helps in the lubrication of the penis. 2.2 The female reproductive system. The female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries along with a pair of oviduct, uterus, cervix, vagina, and the external genitalia located in the pelvic region. These parts of the system along with a pair of the mammary gland are integrated structurally and functionally to support the processes of ovulation, fertilization, pregnancy, birth, and childcare. Ovaries are the primary female sex organs that produce the female gamete, ovum, and several steroid hormones, ovarian hormones. The ovaries are located one on each side of the lower abdomen. Each ovary is about 2 to 4 cm in length and is connected to the pelvic wall and uterus by ligaments. Each ovary is covered by a thin epithelium which encloses the ovarian stroma. The stroma is divided into two zones, a peripheral cortex and an inner medulla. Figure 2.3a Diagrammatic sectional view of female pelvis showing reproductive system. The oviduct, fallopian tubes, uterus, and vagina constitute the female accessory ducts. Each fallopian tube is about 10 to 12 cm long and extends from the periphery of each ovary to the uterus. The part closer to the ovary is the funnel-shaped infundibulum. The edges of the infundibulum possesses finger-like projections called fimbriae, which helps in collection of the ovum after ovulation. The infundibulum leads to the wider part of the oviduct called ampulla. The last part of the oviduct, isthmus, has a narrow lumen and it joins the uterus. The uterus is single and it is also called womb. The shape of the uterus is like an inverted pear. It is supported by ligaments attached to the pelvic wall. The uterus opens into vaginal through a narrow cervix. The cavity of the cervix is called cervical canal, which along with vagina forms the birth canal. The wall of the uterus has three layers of tissues: the external thin membranous perimetrium, middle thick layer of smooth muscles and myometrium, and inner glandular layer called endometrium that lines the uterine cavity. The endometrium undergoes cyclic changes during menstrual cycle, while the myometrium exhibits strong contraction during delivery of the baby. The female external genitalia include mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen, and clitoris. Mons pubis is a cushion of fatty tissue covered by skin and pubic hair. The labia majora are fleshy folds of tissues which extends down from the mons pubis and surrounded the vaginal opening. The labia minora are paired folds of tissues under the labia majora. The opening of vagina is often covered partially by a membrane called hymen. The clitoris is a tiny finger-like structure which lies at the upper junction of the two labia minora above the urethral opening. The hymen is often torn during the first coitus, that is intercourse. However, it is called also broken by sudden fall of jolt. Intersection of vaginal tampon, active participation in some sports like horseback riding, cycling, etc. In some women, the hymen persists even after coitus. In fact, the presence of or absence of hymen is not a reliable indicator of virginity or sexual experience. Figure 2.4, a dramatic sectional view of mammary gland. A functional mammary gland is characteristics of all female mammals. The mammary glands are paired structures, breasts that contain glandular tissue and variable amount of fat. The glandular tissue of each breast is divided into 15 to 20 mammary lobes containing clusters of cells called alveoli. The cells of alveoli secretes milk, which is stored in the cavities, lumen of alveoli. The alveoli open into mammary tubules. The tubules of each lobe join to form a mammary duct. Several mammary ducts join to form a wider mammary ampulla, which is connected to lactiferous duct, through which milk is sucked out. 2.3, gametogenesis. The primary sex organs, the testes in the male and the ovaries in the females, produce gametes, that is, sperms and ovum, respectively, by the process called gametogenesis. In testis, the immature male germ cells spermatogonia produce sperms by spermatogenesis that begins at puberty. The spermatogonia, singular spermatogonium, present on the inside wall of the seminiferous tubule, multiply by mitotic division and increases in number. Each spermatogonium is diploid and contains 46 chromosomes. Some of the spermatogonia, called primary spermatocytes, periodically undergo meiosis. A primary spermatocyte completes the first mitotic division, meiotic division, that is reductional division, leading to formation of two equal haploid cells called secondary spermatocytes, which have only 23 chromosomes each. The secondary spermatocytes undergo the second meiotic division to produce 4 equal haploid spermatids. What would be the number of chromosomes in the spermatids? The spermatids are transformed into spermatozoa, sperms, by the process called spermiogenesis. The process is called spermiogenesis. After spermiogenesis, sperms heads become embedded into the satellite cells and are finally released from the seminiferous tubules by the process called spermiation. Spermatogenesis starts at the age of puberty due to significant increase in the secretion of gonadotropin releasing hormone GnRH. This, if you recall, is a hypothalamic hormone. The increased level of GnRH then acts as an anterior pituitary gland and stimulates secretion of two gonadotropins, that is, luteinizing hormone LH and follicle stimulating hormone FSH. LH acts as a Leydig cell and stimulates synthesis and secretion of androgens. Androgens in turn stimulate the process of spermatogenesis. FSH acts on the satellite cells and stimulates secretion of some factor which helps in the process of spermatogenesis. Let us examine the structure of a sperm. It is a microscopic structure composed of a head, neck, a middle piece, and a tail. A plasma membrane envelopes the whole body of sperm. The sperm head contains an elongated haploid nucleus, the anterior portion of which is covered by a cap-like structure, acrosome. The acrosome is filled with enzymes that helps fertilization of the ovum. The middle piece possesses numerous mitochondria which produces energy for the movement of tail-like facilitate sperm motility essential for fertilization. The human maid ejaculates about 200 to 300 million sperms during a coitus, of which for normal fertility. At least 60% sperms must have normal shape and size and at least 40% of them must show vigorous motility. Sperms released from the seminiferous tubules are transported by the accessory duct. Secretions of epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicles, and prostate are essential for maturation and motility of sperms. The seminal plasma along with the sperms constitute the semen. The function of male sex accessory duct and glands are maintained by the testicular hormones, that is androgens. The process of formation of mature female gamete is called oogenesis, which is markedly different from spermatogenesis. Oogenesis is initiated during the embryonic development stage when a couple of million gamete mother cells, oogonia, are formed within each fetal ovary. No more oogonia are formed and added after birth. These cells starts division and enter into the prophase 1 of meiotic division and get temporarily arrested at that stage, called primary oocytes. Each primary oocyte then gets surrounded by a layer of granulosa called cells and is called the primary follicle. A large number of these follicles degenerated during the phase from birth to puberty. Therefore, a puberty only 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles are left in each ovary. The primary follicles get surrounded by more layers of granulosa called cells, granulosa cells, and a new theca and are called secondary follicles. The secondary follicle soon transforms into a tertiary follicle, which is characterized by a fluid-filled cavity called antrum. The theca layer is organized into an inner theca interna and an outer theca externa. It is important to draw your attention that it is at this stage the primary oocyte within the tertiary follicle grows in size and completes its first meiotic division. It is an unequal division resulting in the formation of a large haploid secondary oocyte and a tiny first polar body. The secondary oocyte retains bulk of the nutrient-rich cytoplasm of the primary oocyte. Can you think of any advantage for this? Does the first polar body born out of the first meiotic division divided further or degenerate? At present, we are not very certain about this. The tertiary follicle further changes into the mature follicle or Graafian follicle. The secondary oocyte forms a new membrane called zona pellucida surrounding it. The Graafian follicle now ruptures to release the secondary oocyte, ovum, from the ovary by the process called ovulation. Can we identify major differences between spermatogenesis and oogenesis? A dramatic representation of spermatogenesis and oogenesis is given below. The figure 2.8 schematic representation, that is of A spermatogenesis and B oogenesis. 2.4 menstrual cycle. The reproductive cycle in the female primates, example monkeys, apes and human beings, is called menstrual cycle. The first menstruation begins at puberty and is called menarche. In human females, menstruation is repeated at an average interval of about 28 to 29 days, and the cycle of events starting from one menstruation till the next one is called the menstrual cycle. One ovum is released, ovulation, during the middle of each menstrual cycle. The major events of menstrual cycle are shown in figure 2.9. The cycle starts with the menstrual phase when menstrual flow occurs at least lasts for 3 to 5 days. The menstrual flow results during to breakdown of endometrium lining of the uterus and its blood vessels, which forms liquid that comes out through vagina. Menstruation only occurs if the released ovum is not fertilized. Lack of menstruation may be indicative of pregnancy. However, it may also be caused due to some other underlying causes like stress, poor health, etc. The menstrual phase is followed by a follicular phase. During this phase, the primary follicles in the ovary grow to become a fully matured Graafian follicle, and simultaneously the endometrium of uterus regenerates through proliferation. These changes in the ovary and the uterus are induced by changes in the levels of pituitary and ovarian hormones. The secretion of gonadotropins, LH and FSH increase gradually during the follicular phase and stimulates follicular development as well as secretion of estrogens by the growing follicles. Both LH and FSH attain a peak level in the middle of cycle, about 14th day. Rapid secretion of LH leading to its maximum level during the mid-cycle called LH surge induces rupture of Graafian follicle and thereby the release of ovum, that is ovulation. The ovulation, that is ovulatory phase, is followed by a luteal phase during which the remaining parts of the Graafian follicles transform as a corpus luteum. The corpus luteum secretes large amounts of progesterone, which is essential for maintenance of the endometrium. Such an endometrium is necessary for implantation of the fertilized ovum and other events of pregnancy. During pregnancy, all events of the menstrual cycle stop and there is no menstruation. In the absence of fertilization, the corpus luteum degenerates. This causes disintegration of the endometrium leading to menstruation, marking a new cycle. In human beings, menstrual cycles ceases around 50 years of age, that is termed as menopause. Cyclic menstruation is an indicator of normal reproductive phase and extends between menarche and menopause. Menstrual hygiene. Maintenance of hygiene and sanitation during the menstruation is very important. Take bath and clean yourself regularly. Use sanitary napkins or clean homemade pads. Change sanitary napkins or homemade pads after every 4 to 5 hours as per the requirement. Disposal of used sanitary napkins, properly wrapping it with a used paper. Do not throw the used napkins in the drain pipe or toilets or in the open area. After handling the napkins, wash hands with soap. 2.5 Fertilization and implantation. During copulation, that is coitus, semen is released by the penis into the vagina, that is insemination. The motile sperms swim rapidly, pass through the cervix, enter into the uterus and finally reach the ampullar region of the fallopian tube. The ovum released by the ovary is also transported to the ampullary region where fertilization takes place. Fertilization can only occur if the ovum and sperms are transported simultaneously to the ampullary region. This is the reason why not all copulation leads to fertilization and pregnancy. The process of fusion of a sperm within an ovum is called fertilization. During fertilization, a sperm comes in contact with the zona pellucida layer of an ovum and induces changes in the membrane that blocks the entry of additional sperms. Thus, it ensures that only one sperm can fertilize an ovum. The secretion of the acrosome helps the sperm enter into the cytoplasm of the ovum through the zona pellucida and the plasma membrane. This indicates the completion of the meiotic division of the secondary oocyte. The second meiotic division is also unequal and results in the formation of second polar body and a haploid ovum, that is oocyte. Soon the haploid nucleus of the sperms and that of the ovum fuses together to form a diploid zygote. How many chromosomes will be there in the zygote? One has to remember that the sex of the baby has been decided at this stage itself. Let us see how, as you know, chromosomes pattern in the human female is XX and that is in the male is XY. Therefore, all the haploid gametes ova produces the female have the sex chromosome X, whereas in the male gametes sperms the sex chromosome could be either X or Y. Hence, 50% of the sperms carry the X chromosome while other 50% carry the Y chromosomes. After fusion of male and female gametes, the zygote would carry either XX or XY, depending on whether the sperm carrying X or Y fertilized the ovum. The zygote carrying XX would develop into a female baby and XY would form a male. You will learn more about the chromosomal pattern in chapter 5. That is why scientifically it is correct to say that the sex of the baby is determined by the father and not by the mother. The meiotic division starts as the zygote moves through the isthmus of the oviduct called cleavage towards the uterus and forms 2, 4, 8, 16 daughter cells called blastomers. The embryo with 8 to 16 blastomers is called morula. The morula continues to divide and transforms into blastocyst. As it moves further into the uterus, the blastomers in the blastocyst are arranged into an outer layer called tropoblast and an inner group of cells attached to tropoblast called the inner cell mass. The tropoblast layer then gets attached to the endometrium and the inner cell mass gets differentiated as the embryo. After attachment, the uterine cells divide rapidly and covers the blastocyst. As a result, the blastocysts become embedded in the endometrium of the uterus. Step H. This is called implementation. It is called implantation and it is leads to pregnancy. 2.6 Pregnancy and embryonic development. After implantation, finger-like projections appears on the trophoblast called chorionic villi, which are surrounded by the uterine cells, tissues and maternal blood. The chorionic villi and uterine tissues become interdigitated with each other and jointly form a structural and functional unit between developing embryos, fetus and maternal body called placenta. The placenta facilitate the supply of oxygen and nutrients to the embryo and also remove of carbon dioxide and excretory waste materials produced by the embryo. The placenta is connected to the embryo through an umbilical cord which helps in the transport of substances to and form the embryo. The placenta also acts as an endocrine tissues and produces several hormones like human chorionic gonadotropin, that is HCG, human placental lactogen, that is HPL, estrogens, progestogens, etc. In the later phase of pregnancy, a hormone called relaxin is also secreted by the ovary. Let us remember that HCG, HPL and relaxin are produced in women only during pregnancy. In addition, during pregnancy, the levels of other hormones like estrogens, progestogens, cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine, etc. are increased several folds in the maternal blood. Increased production of these hormones is essential for supporting the fetal growth, metabolic changes in the mother and maintenance of pregnancy. Immediately after implantation, the inner cell mass, that is embryo, differentiates into an outer layer called ectoderm and an inner layer called endoderm. A mesoderm soon appears between the ectoderm and the endoderm. These three layers give rise to all tissues, organs in adults. It needs to be mentioned here that the inner cell mass contains certain cells called stem cells which have the potency to give rise to all the tissues and organs. What are the major features of embryonic development at various months of pregnancy? The human pregnancy lasts 9 months. Do you know for how many months pregnancy lasts in dogs, elephants, cats? Find out. In human beings, after 1 month of pregnancy, the embryo's heart is formed. The first sign of growing fetus may be noticed by listening to the heart sound carefully through the stethoscope. By the end of the 2nd month of pregnancy, the fetus develops limbs and digits. By the end of 12th week, first trimester, most of the major organ systems are formed. For example, the limbs of the external genitalia, the limbs and external genitalia organs are well developed. The first movements of the fetus and appearance of hair on the head are usually observed during the 5th month. By the end of about 24 week, end of second trimester, the body is covered with fine hairs, eyelids separate, and eyelashes are formed. By the end of 9 months of pregnancy, the fetus is fully developed and is ready for delivery. 2.7 Parturition and lactation. The average duration of human pregnancy is about 9 months, which is called the gestation period. Vigorous contractions of the uterus at the end of pregnancy causes expulsion, delivery of the fetus. This process of delivery of the fetus, that is childbirth, is called parturition. Parturition is induced by a complex neuroendocrine mechanisms. The signals for parturition originate from the fully developed fetus and the placenta, which induce mild uterine contractions called fetal ejection reflex. This triggers release of oxytocin. Oxytocin forms the maternal pituitary. Oxytocin acts as the uterine muscles and causes strong uterine contraction, which is turn stimulates further secretion of oxytocin. The stimulatory reflex between the uterine contractions and oxytocin secretion continues, resulting in the stronger and stronger contractions. This leads to expulsion of the baby out of the uterus through the birth canal, that is parturition. Soon after the infant is delivered, the placenta is also expelled out of the uterus. What do you think the doctors inject to induce delivery? The mammary glands of the female undergo differentiation during pregnancy and starts producing milk towards the end of the pregnancy by the process called lactation. This helps the mother in feeding the newborn. The milk produced during the initial few days of lactation is called colostrum, which contains several antibodies absolutely essential to develop resistance for the newborn babies. Breastfeeding during the initial period of infant growth is recommended by doctors for bringing up a healthy baby. Summary: humans are sexually reproducing and viviparous. The male reproductive system is composed of a pair of testes, the male sex accessory duct, and the accessory gland and external genitalia. Each testis has about 250 compartments called testicular lobules, and each lobule contains one of the 3 highly called seminiferous tubules. Each seminiferous tubule is lined inside by spermatogonia and Sertoli cells. The spermatogonia undergo meiotic divisions leading to sperm formation, while Sertoli cells provide nutrition to the dividing germ cells. The Leydig cells outside the seminiferous tubules synthesizes and secretes testicular hormones called androgens. The male external genitalia is called penis. The female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries and a pair of oviduct, a uterus, a vagina, external genitalia, and a pair of mammary glands. The ovaries produce the female gamete, ovum, and some steroid hormones, ovarian hormones. Ovarian follicles in different stages of development are embedded in the stroma. The oviduct, uterus, and vagina are female accessory ducts. The uterus has 3 layers, namely perimetrium, myometrium, and endometrium. The female external genitalia includes mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen, and clitoris. The mammary glands are one of the female secondary sexual characteristics. Spermatogenesis results in the formation of sperms that are transported by the male sex accessory ducts. As a normal human sperm is composed of a head, neck, a middle piece, and tail. The process of formation of mature female gametes is called oogenesis. The reproductive cycle of female primates is called menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle starts only after attaining sexual maturation, that is puberty. During ovulation, only one ovum is released per menstrual cycle. The cyclical changes in the ovary and the uterus during menstrual cycle are induced by changes in the levels of pituitary and ovarian hormones. After coitus, sperms are transported to the ampulla where the sperm fertilizes the ovum, leading to formation of a diploid zygote. The presence of X or Y chromosomes in the sperm determines the sex of the embryo. The zygote undergoes repeated uh, mitotic division to form a blastocyst, which is implanted in the uterus, resulting in pregnancy. After 9 months of pregnancy, the fully developed fetus is ready for delivery. The process of childbirth is called parturition, which is induced by complex neuroendocrine mechanisms involving cortisol, estrogens, and oxytocin. Mammary glands differentiate during pregnancy and secrete milk after childbirth. The newborn baby is fed milk by the mother, that is called lactation, during the initial few months of growth. Chapter completed. Thank you. ಚಾನಲ್ನ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ವಿಡಿಯೋನ ತಪ್ಪದೆ ನೋಡಿ. ಅಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಸ್ಟೇ ಟ್ಯೂನ್ಡ್. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸೋ ಮಚ್.